Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll introduce the board. Following board members by their township are Charles Albridge, Richmond Township, Vicki Gardner, Numby Township, Linnea Kustra, Alden Township, Robert Cozen, Algonquin Township, Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township, Donald Smolinski, Grafton Township, and myself, David Stone, McHenry Township. We introduced the board in that manner so that we demonstrate that we comply with the state statute. It says that a board member can only, that the board can only have members who are from one township. No, there can't be two board members in one township. Publisher certificate of publication from my newspapers dated December 28th, 2022, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit posting was signed and was posted was December 20th, 2022, and hereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit mailing was signed and date mail was December 22nd, 2022, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Survey has been checked against the petition, legal notice and publication in the newspaper, and all three match. Filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this petition. The McHenry County's Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. Would you please state your name for the record?
My name is Cynthia Ojeda.
And you are the applicant here, correct?
Yes, I am.
And let the record show that there's no one in the audience. And we'll proceed then with, how do we spell your name?
Cynthia, C-Y-N-T-H-I-A. The last name is O-J-E-D as in David, A.
Ojeda?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, we're going to have those who are going to speak here today raise their right hand and be sworn. Cam, no? Okay, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do. I do.
I did.
Are you prepared to give us a little rundown as to what you're about here today?
Yes.
Okay, then go ahead and proceed.
I have been in McHenry County down there for a little over 20 years. This is my third conditional use permit. I was granted one last time. I had some violations on it, made some mistakes, corrected it, paid my fine, went on my way. I'm here today because I respected that conditional use permit that was given to me, and I followed all the rules. And I'm asking you just to renew it, please, as the words were in it. No new words enter into it. That's why I'm here today.
You want to explain what you mean by the words enter into?
The last meeting that I came here the other month is they gave me a summary of why they felt that the county felt that I should not have my permit renewed. A couple of the things they put in there, it was not correct. It stated in there that I did not have the proper permit for my sign. I've had it for many years. They asked me for the permit number, I showed it to them. But in the paper they sent, they said it was not, which is false. They also stated in there that I am a landscaping business. I'm not landscaping. I never was a landscaper. I can't even plant a tree or a flower. The other thing is, one of the codes that they're holding me on, that they said that shouldn't be accepted, is residential. One of the codes that they put in this package, 9 times it says residential, residential, all the way through it. I'm not residential. I am the unincorporated area of Woodstock. So the rules are different from residential to unincorporated. And I think that's about quite right. Those are the things I wanted to point where I felt they were wrong the last meeting we had. I applied by my conditional use permit. I am not in violation. I have no violations against me. And I ask you to renew it.
Okay, thank you. Let me just get this straight. Did you say that you're in the city of Woodstock?
I am Woodstock, yes. I am the unincorporated area of Woodstock, not residential Woodstock.
I think maybe you're mixing up, unincorporated with incorporated.
Because the rule that they were trying to hold against me, the whole thing, if you read the rule from top to bottom, in there, it mentions residential through the whole thing at least 9 times. Doesn't mention anything about being unincorporated. I'm in the unincorporated. I should not be held accountable to a residential area. The nearest home to me is half a field away.
All right, I think you're misunderstanding me, but that's all right.
It's a rule that they put in the document that they were going to hold me on.
All right, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Any questions, Mr. Schnabel?
Just for staff on the status of that sign permit, to the best of your knowledge, where that's at right now?
I have my permit here.
There was obviously a dispute in the notes, and I'm just looking for clarification on that.
So in researching the permit number that Mrs. Zahid had given to the staff, the notes for that particular permit number indicate that the permit was withdrawn. There's no record that that particular permit was actually issued in our records.
Well, we don't issue the sign permits, do we?
No, this board does not. That is just something that was brought up as part of the staff plat review, that there was an outstanding permit. We researched it and we did include it in the packet as one of the permits that had been applied for but had not been granted by the county.
But the point is, we don't have jurisdiction over that here, so I don't think there's any reason for us to pursue it further.
That's fine.
When was the permit applied for originally?
I don't remember. off the
I have
top of my
certificate
head.
of completion on it.
I'm asking staff.
Okay. So that was applied for in 2010.
And when was the permit application withdrawn or voided?
September 27th, 2010, so just a couple months later.
I have here certificate of completion for the sign. I have here the permits that I drew up, and this is a certificate for the sign.
Are those from 2010?
2000, this one was finished on July the 12th is when I got my certificate, on 12.
What year?
12. It's because, the reason why is because we went through zoning and everything. I was told that I'd have to work on my sign and my bins. And I understood that. I had to reissue it, and I got it. I have stamp here, McHenry County stamps on January 7th of 2011. They stamped these papers. These are their stamping. You like, I show them to you.
Well, let's go back here. Our job today is to answer the applicant's request, and this is what the request is: renewal of conditional use permit 1134 to allow landscape waste generated on site and off site and clean wood as defined by the Illinois EPA to include natural black logs and unpainted lumber scrap such as pallet fencing and wooden crates scrap to be used for wood chip mulch processing on the property. 2, outside storage of raw material for the wood chip mulch produced on site and finished mulch product. 3, outside storage of equipment, including specifically a tracker, loader, boom, tub grinder, wood miser, portable small sawmill, bobcat, and dump truck. And 4, for the operation of a permanent sawmill to process and sell lumber to make and sell furniture and to sell mulch. Also that, I forgot to read and put this in the record earlier, that this is petition number 2022-041, 1007-28-400-005. The address is 17221 Route 14, Woodstock, Illinois. Property consists of approximately 2.81 acres and is located south of US Route 14 and north and south of Dunham Road and in Heartland Township. The applicant is Gerardo and Cynthia Ojeda. And so that's what we're limited to today, is deciding if you should have the right to a conditional use that allows you to make mulch and sell mulch from the property. So with that, let's ask Mr. Stump, do you have any questions?
None at this time.
Mrs. Gardner?
Is there a residence on the property?
It's not resident.
There's no residence on the property.
We live there.
You live there, so there is a residence on the property.
The property is zone unincorporated. It's not zone.
Excuse me, ma'am, please just answer my question. You live on the property, so there is a residence, a home on the property, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The description of your request says that landscape waste generated on-site and off-site and clean wood is defined, blah, blah, blah. What landscape waste is generated on-site?
What they bring to me is on site. I don't clean my land. On site mean to process it on the site.
So it's processed on-site, but it's brought in from off-site, is that correct?
Yes.
So you don't actually generate any materials? Okay. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay.
So that description means that it can come under cover area as mulch.
I'm sorry. What did you ask me?
So in order to meet the definition of on-site, it's already made into mulch that somehow you either buy it or take it on as consignment or scoop out or do something with the mulch.
I make it.
I think they make the mulch.
I make the mulch.
She makes the mulch.
Yeah.
I do it.
She
They bring me the
takes
debris and I
landscape
make it.
waste and turns it into mulch.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me.
It's okay.
Sorry.
So, there was also, and I don't mean to be contentious, but there was some discussion during site plan review that you were overextending the limit of your bins, which are to be 6 feet, and you are filling them above 6 feet, is that correct?
I spoke to you about that. You're wrong.
Okay,
There is no.
I don't want to
ruling.
argue with you.
There is no ruling. What that 6 feet, because you were very kind to me, and you said, you anticipated, you thought, maybe that's what it meant. What it meant, the bins could not be no higher than 6 feet high.
Okay.
It did not say materials. You added that into that. If you read my conditional permit that I asked you to read that day, it says the bins cannot be higher than 6 feet. It did not say the material cannot be higher than 6 feet. The bins is what they were talking about. That's what I pointed out to you that day. Would you like me to read that code to you one more time?
No, I would not.
Okay,
I would like to put that aside for staff later, thank you.
that's fine.
And I will save the rest of my questions.
Ms. Kustra.
You live on the property,
Yes, ma'am.
and that home looks like initially that was a violation, that home was constructed without a permit. It looks like there was a violation issued, that there was a residential accessory building started without a permit and lack of an inspection associated with the residential building. When was that building constructed? Your
Which
home?
building are you talking about?
The home that you live in.
The home was there when we bought it over 20 years ago.
Okay, did you start an accessory building to the residence? Did you build anything on the property, any building?
The carport and the barn.
And when was that constructed?
I don't know. The carport that we put there, I have the plans for the carport, and, see, it was over 20 years ago. It was, I don't see a date on this. But there are permits for the carport and the barn. There are permits.
Okay, you pleaded guilty in 2014 to some violations. Can you tell me what they were?
For not having the proper sign for the sign.
Not
And,
having a sign permit?
correct, I did not have a sign permit then. I have it now.
In 2014, you did not have a sign permit. You pleaded guilty in 2014
The
to not
reason why
having
I
a sign
pleaded guilty
permit.
is because I didn't have it at the time. And when I went to court, I broke the law. Even though I broke it and I corrected it, I still had a permit on me that I
All
had
right, so I'm just trying to clarify what you pleaded guilty to in 2014.
to the sign violation.
That you did not have a sign.
Correct.
And so after 2014, did you, have you still been operating without a sign? Do you have a sign there?
I have my permit here. They
Dated
came out
after
and even put the little
2014?
tag out and everything. I have my prints here. I have the sign permit. But the thing is, the reason why I paid a fine.
I'm sorry,
I broke
was
the
it
law.
issued after 2014?
It wasn't 2014 is when I did it. It was
So it was
20
not issued after after you pleaded guilty, you did not resolve this issue?
I resolved it before.
Okay.
We went to court
We'll deal
back
with
and
that with
forth.
staff then. Staff will clarify that for me then. Maybe all these violations I can clarify with staff. I drive by your property a lot, and the piles are huge.
Yes?
I would say 30 feet or
Not that
higher.
high, not that high. But they do get huge, like right now, because we do not grind during the wintertime. And if you noticed out in front, when you drove by, the bins where we store the
Oh, I
finished.
can't even see any bins. I mean, all I
Because
see
you
is
can't see
huge
it,
piles.
it's because we have the screening and we have the fencing there, but the bins are empty now. They're empty, but they're being ready to grind this, and you have to grind it more than once, you have to grind it twice, and then the third time you have to grind it to put the pigment in it, so then you go and load up all your bins. This is stuff that's generating for the summer.
Okay, I'll save the rest of my questions for staff. Thank you.
How much in volume did you take of mulch did you take off your property this last season?
That I can't answer a lot, but I can't answer that one. I never ever really measured it or kept a defined record of yardage. That I don't know. My husband would know more, but that I do
What
not.
what was your gross revenue from mulch?
Last year,
Last year, yes.
it was close to 30,000 just for the mulch.
$30,000.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Eldridge,
All my questions are for staff.
or what?
For staff.
Okay. Mr. Smolinski,
Ma'am, have you seen the staff recommended conditions for renewal?
Yes, I
And
did.
Are you in agreement with them?
No.
Which ones are you not in agreement?
Well, for one, my signed paper, my signed certificates here,
Which numbers?
that number 4, I don't agree with it.
Okay,
Number 1, it says that I'm in violation of their code 16.56, and that is landscaping
no,
business.
I'm looking at the recommended conditions.
Oh, number 3?
You tell me which ones you are not in agreement with. Of the 11, there's 11 conditions.
That I don't know. They never gave me, that I do not know what you're talking about. I don't know what
So-
Do
condition.
you have the report? Do you have the report that we're using today?
That I don't have. When, I didn't receive that.
So you don't have a copy of proposed conditions? I'm gonna bring you mine.
Should be in the package that she doesn't have.
Thank you, ma'am.
These 11, so you'll go through them.
there's some on another page.
All materials stored before.
So just tell me which ones you do not agree with.
I agree with them all.
You agree with all 11?
Yes, I follow them all.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Cozen? Mr. Cozen?
You're finished?
I am complete, thank you. I am
Yeah,
complete.
Mr. Eldridge, I'll do
No,
that.
it's Mr. Cozen.
Oh, Mr. Coulson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I've been away for a long time.
Who's that
I
guy?
still have a haircut, same haircut, Mr. Chairman. If I may, there's a question regarding that you'll be working with the IEPA.
Yes.
What is the latest status of that?
They come out to me yearly for the Ashbourne and all that, because what they do is they inspect my piles and that to see that I am turning everything and that I'm moving everything around to put, so there wouldn't be diseases or things like that.
Right, have they in their review provided you with any document, letter,
The gentleman just comes out and just,
that gives you a
they just
inspection
do an
form?
inspection, he comes out to inspect me.
Right, but does he give you a piece of paper, a form, and nope?
I have one on me, but I don't know if it's a current one. It's like complaints of agreement. These are old ones, tons of old ones. Like this is for State of Illinois Department regulations and things. I've had papers stamped where they'd stamp it. These are old ones. I didn't get your current one. But then since Kobe hit in 2020, they have not been there to inspect me because they said that they cannot send an inspector out at this time.
And you had mentioned the Emerald Ash Borer, and so you've had inspections for that?
Yes?
That concludes my questions for the applicant.
Okay.
Hey ma'am, there's some standards in the ordinance that you need to follow. I need to question you about those. You would just answer to the best of your ability. Is this site situated so that your use is compatible with the existing or planned future development of the area?
Yes, I do believe it is. It's farmland all the way around us. We're the only ones out there.
Looks like there's mention that there's a bar.
There, yes, that's wrong. There's a bar, and then across the street from us, there's a greenhouse.
Okay. Is your site, is the establishment, maintenance, and operation of your use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the neighborhood around you?
No,
Is the conditional use shall not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted? So it's asking that what you're doing cannot injure the use and enjoyment of other property in the area for the purposes that they have.
no,
That this conditional use shall not substantially diminish or impair the property value around you.
no,
That adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided.
yes,
Do you have adequate measures that will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion and hazard on public streets?
yes,
That your conditional use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the zoning district in which it's located? So that you would conform with all regulations in the A1 district where it's located?
yes,
Is your conditional use reasonably in the interest of the public welfare?
is it doing what to the web?
Is it in the interest of the public welfare?
I'd
that
say
you have-
yes. The people around me, I've been blessed with beautiful neighbors.
And do you have adequate measures in place to provide protection to groundwater recharge and groundwater quality?
I think so.
As far as, I'm looking for the other ones, for the applicable use standards for what you want, they're not printed.
They're not, because this was based on the original CUP 20 years ago. Those standards are no longer part of our code. So
So there's nothing else
you're
you need
just
to address?
doing the standards for a CUP.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions by the board? Okay, then, do we have some evidence from this plat, from the staff?
I'm sorry, excuse me. So just real quick, this particular property is zoned A1. Has had a conditional use on this property for over 20 years for this operation. The zoning on all sides is also A1 agricultural. There is a business classification that's kind of kitty corner as shown on the map there. That is for the bar that was referenced. The current land use maps are depicting this area as a single-family residential use for this particular property and all properties surrounding it. Again, with the exception of the bar, which has been shown as the commercial designation. Ms. Ojeda did properly note that across the street, there is a greenhouse that is operational up there as well. The future land use designation for this entire area is for agricultural. This is a supportive use in an agricultural district, so staff has no problem with the future designation and this use within it. As noted, there have been a number of permits that have been issued over the years for this property. While we've been talking, Kim here has been doing some additional research for us in terms of the sign permit. Apparently that was applied for in 2010. It changed ownership, and that's why it was withdrawn. It was then reapplied for under the same permit number in 2011 with a final inspection and conditional occupancy in 2012. So that apparently is in compliance, okay? The 2014 case that has been referenced did not have anything to do with that sign. That had to do with the bins being on that property in terms of the interpretation of whether it was strictly the bins that were to be 6 feet in height or if that included the material that's supposed to be 6 feet in height. Staff still maintains that it should be both the bins and the material, but that is an interpretation that this board can certainly override our interpretation of that.
So regarding that, so the court found the applicant guilty of making those piles higher than they should be?
Correct.
Okay. And they pleaded guilty of that, but they continued to do it anyhow?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe those were the main concerns that were addressed with the 2012 case. I'm open for questions.
So you're complaining that my material's too high? That I'm
I'm sorry, this is questions with us with her right now, not with
all right.
you.
Oh, maybe,
Can we continue with our questions of staff?
yes.
Okay. So, there's been Anna, you're kind of recent to staff, but I've been on this zoning board. I've gone through 2 times with this applicant, with many violations that have occurred on here. And so I want to go through these violations. How many of these have occurred since the renewal in the last 10 years? Because when we renewed this 10 years ago, I remember there was, it was pretty divided because there were so many violations that had happened previous to that. And we decided we'd give them a second chance, but I just want to find out how, you know, what the track record has been since then.
Since 2011, there has been only one RFS that's been filed against the property, and that's the one that was in 2014.
Okay, and then the sign permit was something that was dealt with separately?
Correct.
Okay. And so the residential accessory building started without a permit, that was done more than 10 years ago?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions, Mr. Holden?
Just to clarify the note on page 13 of 20, it said the last inspection conducted on this property was in August 2014. Does that mean that no one of the enforcement entities of the county have been on the property?
From Planning and Development, that is correct.
And so we, other than the testimony of the applicant, we have no other information that the property is presently in compliance with the existing conditional use?
I would have to say yes.
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Want to repeat that question?
My question was, other than the testimony of the applicant, the only information we had before us that the applicant is in compliance with the conditional use issued 10 years ago is only the applicant's testimony.
Okay.
We have no inspection, no.
I have one more question for Anna. Regarding the conditions, the proposed conditions, it says the business shall be registered with the Illinois Department of Agriculture Bureau's Emerald Ash Borer Compliance Program. Can you explain to me that program, and is there a way to have a record of that? I mean, does a person have to have a certificate of that? And if so, has the applicant provided that certificate?
Okay, so the conditions that are before you today are the same ones that were in place with the previous one. I don't know what the Department of Agricultural's Ash Borer program actually has these days, as to whether or not we have a certificate or anything from them or from the applicant from them. I'm not aware of that in our records.
So there really is no, unless staff pursued that to ask for registration, which 10 years ago was in here, but it sounds like it was never followed up with.
I believe that's correct.
And do you know of what the buffering, what the vegetation requirements were 10, 20 years ago? Because there is no way there's enough landscape screening for this. It's just a total eyesore when you drive down the highway.
Right.
It's awful.
There is some landscaping that is provided along US Route 14. Basically, if I remember correctly, from the driveway heading east. There is some, and that was planted landscaping. There is along Durham Road, there is some vegetation that's been there for quite a while. It's not landscaped per se, but that was accepted as screening at the time, is my understanding.
So the fact that this is a renewal, can we ask for further screening?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, as far as, like if mulch continues to grow and piles of wood, like the piles of wood that are just broken up pallets and, you know, furniture, I don't know what all is included in that huge pile, but there's no requirement that has to be processed within a certain amount of time, or can those just continue to build and build and build?
To my knowledge, there is nothing in the Unified Development Ordinance that limits how high it can be and how long it can be in that height, whatever that height might be, okay? So if you want to put some conditions in there, you can certainly do so. It says it has to be turned around within a certain amount of time. From the couple of other mulching facilities that we've seen this past year, it looks like anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months to process the mulch seems to be a typical turnaround time.
How about fire hazard for something like this? I mean, mulch tends to heat, but, you know, I don't know, it just looks like a real risk to me.
Sure. I know that mulch being an organic matter does compost and does generate a certain amount of heat within it. That's typically why you have mulching that is turned over within certain periods of time. What those time frames would be, I don't know, and I don't know that the fire district has any standards one way or the other as to how to handle a fire situation in a facility such as this.
Any other questions?
Charlie? you-
No, I've Linnaeus asked my question.
Okay, I have some, Mr. Chairman. Anna, what is the planning and zoning staff requirement for any enforcement activities under these CUPs that are granted?
We are in the process of going through right now all the CUPs that have been granted going back into at least the 1950s. Everyone that we have on record, and we are trying to put together a inspection program for all of those. Hopefully later this year, we will start doing our annual inspections. Some CUPs will be on an annual inspection, some will be every third year, every fifth year, depending on the nature of the CUP. Things like a religious institution might not need to be inspected every year. There'd be other CUPs that you do want to inspect every year. So we are working on putting together that program. We are aware that this is a deficiency in our department, and we're working on that.
When do you expect that to be in place?
Like I said, I'm hoping to start the inspections later this year. Kim and I have been working together, and right now we've gone through 4 or 5 townships just to weed out things that have expired or are no longer relevant to the books, to identify what we actually do need to inspect. I'd say right now that there's probably, out of those 4 or 5 townships, 100, 125 or so CUPs that we need to inspect just in those.
That's a big job.
It will be a big job, yes.
Last question I have is, did I understand you correct to say that these 11 conditions that are in your staff report are identical to the expiring one? Or
Yes.
They are identical?
They are.
It's all.
Thank you. So, in the last 10 years, there's only been 1 complaint from a neighbor? That's your understanding?
Ooh, that was 11 years ago.
That was 11 years ago?
Yeah.
There have been no complaints in the last 11 years?
No, sir.
Has the county issued any requests for services in the last 10 years? Requested to change anything?
No, no, because nothing. I only wanted to, if I can, submit this to you, because your conversation was
Going
that
on
you,
another topic, I want to cover just this one point. What percentage of the total income that goes to your property does that $30,000 represent?
what does that represent?
And what percentage of your total income to that property?
I don't know how to answer that question, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're trying to get to.
Well, if that's your only business, that would be 100%. If
Right.
it's 50% of your business, it would be 50%. That's what I'm asking you. The county board wants to know about businesses, and they want to know if it's a good business, a bad business.
You keep spreading butter on the table.
Okay, so is that your only source of income? Is it?
No, that was for the mulch. The other is sources if we mill the logs, and we're doing milling logs, or if we sell some lumber.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, it's your opportunity to either ask questions of what these other people have done or make a closing statement.
Yes, you asked a question, is there any compliance or agreement or something for the gypsy mountain, things like that? I have it right here. In 2012, my application, and it was sent, and it was sealed, and the inspector signed it, and it's stamped that it was received.
That's for what?
For the gypsy malt, for the inspection for the state in there. I have the application here that I filed for it, and the inspector came out, he signed it, and that's how I got into their program.
Can I see it?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Chairman, would that also be passed down to this end of the table as
Oh,
well?
we'll consider that as under a separate motion. Yes, of course.
So at this time, it looked like you were the owner
Yes, ma'am,
of the property, or you were the owner of the mill?
the mill.
The mill, okay. And it says then that you must supply records that may be required for inspection. Do you have any copies of those records that you supplied for inspection?
What records they're asking for is like, when they come out, and if they give me any approval stamped when the inspector's there. Other records I don't have. I have my conditional use permit I showed him, but any other kind of records, no. Inspector just comes out, he inspects me. I have here to show you, these are just some few old ones that I deal with the state. This one here. Here's one where they come out, they stamp it. It's amount.
This was in '07 before you had this agreement. This agreement
This
is
is the
in
new one.
2012.
This is the closer one.
Do you have anything since then?
Not
Since
with me.
2012, you have
No,
nothing?
not on me here, no, I'm sorry. But I have been dealing with the state right along. And they're the ones who come out and inspect me, because unfortunately, when the state comes out, when planning and development comes out, they stand in front of the mulch and they're like, we're here
Thank you,
to...
Mr. Cozen.
Thank you.
When planning and development, they come out and they say, we're here to inspect your mulch. There's the mulch. And the inspector's like, well, what am I supposed to be doing with this? Don't ask me, they send you, and then they leave. Because they don't know the different types of mulch, they don't know the processing of the mulch.
So you're talking about the county comes out?
Yes, they have been out.
Why, do the
They
county?
came out and they said they came out to inspect the mulch. And we said, fine, here's the mulch, you want to inspect it, but then they say, why am I here? You want to inspect my mulch, go right
Are
ahead.
they there on a complaint basis?
No, because like, for this meeting, I agreed to an inspection. If they want to come out to inspect the property, you're more than welcome to, anytime. They have a right to come inspect the property.
And so that's what you're talking about, when they came out to the property because of this hearing?
Not at this meeting, they have not been come onto my property. Not for this one.
When's the last time?
When was the last time someone from the county came out to inspect your property?
9 years ago. 9, 10 years,
Okay, probably for the last renewal.
yes.
Okay. So no one's been out to check on your mulch and check on to
There
see
has-
if you've gotten your reports from the Emerald Dashboard, if you submitted that properly?
Yes.
Do you have any Illinois EPA regulations that, do they come out to inspect you or anything?
No,
Do you know of any regulations you need to follow for the Illinois Environmental
no,
Protection
that was
Agency?
presented to me.
So you're not aware that you need to follow any kind of requirements for them?
I did, I tried, and that's how come I ended up in the mulch. This one here. They told me that all I had to do was be registered with them.
Okay, and then another question that's just come up in my head while I'm reviewing this. So the piles of lumber that you have, I noticed like some is like white painted wood and that sort of thing. How do you get that? I mean, if somebody's like taking down a house or something, do they bring you your lumber or how does that work?
No, what that is you might see some paint stuff out there, and they say clean lumber. When they're saying clean lumber, it depends on the person himself. Clean lumber means like lumber you buy in Menards, Home Depot and that. But you're not gonna go and buy a brand new fence or a brand new pallet. What they're asking you is, when they're telling clean, they don't want demolition. They don't want shingles, they don't want railroad ties, they don't want stuff like that, or they were concerned for,
So what is that wood? How has that come to you? What types of wood is
it
it?
comes from all over. It comes from the pallet companies, it comes from places that they're doing wood projects and that, factories and things, they bring it in.
So some of it is painted that
They
comes.
might have some paint from time to time, but they're not holding me to the thumb because 100% of that stuff is recycled. It's not brand new, and they might have put their brand name on it, they might have had something.
So there, and there's nails and stuff in a lot of
Nails
that.
you're not worried about, because the reason why you're not worried about the nails is the tub grinder. The tub grinder itself, it's about 20 feet high. There's an elevator that goes up on top of it. When you put it in there and you're grinding this, and it's going through the grinding in there, there's a magnet out there. And that magnet then pulls all the nails and anything metal. Granted, it will not pull aluminum, I think it's aluminum, or plastic nails. But regular nails and things like that, it does pull it. That's what goes through the grinder in there.
So there might be like furniture, I mean, for nails, it has to be something that was constructed that comes out there, that then you have to remove the nails.
Construction, when you're saying construction, a fence might have nails in it. The pellets have nails in it. And that's where the tub grinder is pulling all of that stuff out. That is constructed.
Okay.
And furniture, I really don't ever take pieces of furniture because there's a reason why. You don't want to put a TV set in there, you don't want to put a couch in there, you don't want to put a bed in there. No, and maybe a chair or something like that, but nah. You don't put that stuff in there. Because you want clean mulch.
Okay. That's it.
Mr. Chosen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To show the best use of my time, the Illinois Department of Agriculture does maintain an ash borer site, and with the document that was provided, was able to locate the business name on the site, and the applicant is registered of having a current ash borer license with the state, and that license is 111-151 under G.C.Mil. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chosen. Are there any other first questions or any response from the board, from the staff?
No questions.
Okay, then let's move. I'm going to close the hearing and move to the conditions. We'll reopen the voting meeting. Following our proposed conditions. Number 1, the conditional use permit shall expire 10 years from the date of approval by the McHenry County Board. All materials before and after processing shall be stored in storage bins and shall not exceed 6 feet in height, and storage bins must have all proper permits.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add some language to clarify that.
Which number are we on?
Number 2,
Okay.
I would like to amend it to say, all materials before and after processing shall be stored in storage bins, and materials shall not exceed 6 feet in height.
No, that cannot be. That cannot be changed. Because when you're grinding it
This
out-
is for our purposes.
But I cannot set that in my conditional use permit. I did not have it in the one last year for that reason. When you're grinding, you make those piles high. You don't make them 6 feet high, tall as a person. When that machine is already 20 feet tall. You cannot add that in there.
We're talking about storage in the
The
bins,
material.
not just
Let me
pumping
get
it
The
the-
out.
materials, I would have piles
Write it
everywhere.
down.
The materials, no.
I second the motion.
Okay, would you please state the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the motion is to amend number 2 so that it reads, all materials before and after processing shall be stored in storage bins, and materials shall not exceed 6 feet in height inside storage bins,
Okay, that's the motion.
period.
Motion is made by Kustra, seconded by Elridge.
And the second sentence in that condition stays the same, that storage bins must have all proper permits.
Wait a minute, I'm a little lost on that.
I have the proper permits. I have the proper permits for the bins.
That's already on there, right? You know,
Yeah, I'm just wanting that to remain. And
Okay,
I'm just amending the first sentence of condition number 2.
okay. Any further discussion? Well, I'm a little reluctant to put this woman out of business, but that's the only comment that I have. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
So then you're changing it, that my material bins must be only
Wait a
6 feet
minute,
high?
was there another?
not talk now.
So it's
Pardon me?
5-2?
You may not talk now. This is our discussion, not yours.
Okay, going on to number 3. The conditional use permit shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. Mulch operation shall be limited to the areas so designated on the site plan. Number 4.
Can we blow up the site plan a little bit so that we can see and talk to staff where that's actually occurring?
You want to pause at this point on the,
I just want to be clear because I want to make sure that there is no misinterpretation of where and what happens, because that has been clear that it's happened before. So,
can't find it.
so the mulch operation shall be limited to the areas so designated. Where are those areas, Anna?
The mulch areas are the orange areas, if I remember correctly. Let me take a look at the big section here, so.
Are there any proposed amendments to that?
We're waiting for her to look it up.
Okay, so the orange that's on there is storage of clean wood for mulch, and the pinkish area is the storage of finished mulch.
So when you say mulch operation, where do you mean?
So to me, operation is where it's being processed. So that would be the orange area.
Would you move the illustration up? Your legend doesn't show.
I feel like I'm kind of losing control of this meeting. What are we doing?
They're looking at the site plan, Dave, to clarify number 4 and number 3. So can we clarify if mulch operation shall be limited to the areas so designated on the site plan labeled orange or whatever, something to that effect? Shown in orange. Okay, so I'm going to amend that, so at the end of that sentence, it would be so designated on the site plan shown in orange.
Second.
Okay, the motion is to, what is it that's
The
going to be?
motion is to amend number 3 so that at the end of the sentence, instead of a period, it's a comma, and add the language shown in orange, period.
Okay, any discussion on that amendment? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Number 5.
Number 4.
Number 4. Again? Did we just do number 4?
No, we did number 3.
And number 4, the uses and storage on the site shall be limited to the area so designated on the site plan.
And again, Mr. Chairman, I would like Anna to verify what color that would be, and so that we have that listed as well.
So, according to the site plan, the orange areas is the sort of thing with remote, including operations and processing. The rectangular purplish area there is outdoor storage of equipment. The pinkish area is for the storage of finished mulch. And the blue area is unfinished mulch.
So it's basically the whole property.
Just like this.
Okay. So I don't have any amendment for that.
Proceeding to number 4, right? One freestanding sign shall be allowed on the site not to exceed 32 square feet of sign face and be subject to the Highway Advertising Control Act of 1971, cited as 225 Illinois CS 400/, et sec, as amended. Setback for the sign shall be regulated by the McHenry County sign ordinance. Said sign must have all of the proper permits. Number 6, the landscapes screening consisting of a combination of vegetation and fencing along the northeast property line bordering US Route 14, the northwest property line bordering Dunham Road, and excluding the 0.15 acre portion of the property located northwest of Dunham Road shall be maintained and in good condition. Number
I have a
7.
question on that too, Mr. Chairman. So I felt that the screening is not sufficient based on the piles being so high, but now I'm wondering, if we limit that to 6, but then I don't know where the storage bins are and where the unprocessed piles, if they're not in storage bins, are they allowed to be as high as they want?
So the bins are located in the pinkish areas, okay? The orange and the blue area would be where piles of product that's in various stages of making and or processed. Those piles can be as high as they can be. There is no limitation I'm aware of in terms of the height of those.
Haven't we regulated that on other landscape businesses? I thought
So
we
the other ones have come in as part of their application, and on their site plans it said that the maximum height that they will have it will be X feet. Most recent one was Eddie's Landscaping, and that was listed on their site plan as 30 feet. If you want to limit the height of those particular piles in the unfinished area or the processing areas, you can certainly add that as a condition.
Okay, we'll do that. I'll do that instead of changing the landscape screening.
Does that affect your motion? Any motion?
I have no motion.
Number 7, the business shall be registered with the Illinois Department of Agriculture's Bureau's Emerald Ash borer compliance program. Number 8, all IEPA regulations shall be met. 9, only clean wood can be accepted for use in any of the conditional use permit operations. Clean wood shall include, but not be limited to, natural logs, tree branches, 2 inches in diameter or larger, implanted and unpainted lumber scraps such as pellet, fencing, and wooden concrete, scrap. Clean wood shall not include any construction or demolition debris. Number 10, if any construction or part thereof is used for the operation of a conditional use permit, then said structure or relevant portion thereof shall be made to meet applicable commercial building codes and obtain all required permits for such a use. Number 11, all other federal, state, and local laws shall be met.
Mr. Chairman, I propose another amendment, and that would be piles of unprocessed wood and logs shall be no higher than, well, I guess I have to say 30 feet if that's what we allowed in these, unless my colleagues suggest
Well,
something different.
I think that 30 feet is too high on a site this small, frankly. Eddie's
I do
was
too.
much larger, and so I would urge you to set a lower height.
What number of,
Okay, I'm going to say, I think these piles should be no higher than 15 feet.
I will second that.
My machine is 18 feet tall. Could you do it at 20? Because when it's elevated up and it comes down, you want to make a full pile, not make a half a pile. You want to burn the full pile. Could you do 20?
I'm going to stay with 15 at this point. I'll
I went down
entertain
from
discussion
30.
from my colleagues, but my motion is for 15 feet.
okay, does everyone understand the motion? Viola, are you trying to get this down in group?
I'm putting it down as I'm hearing it. We will have the transcript, so if I miss any word or whatever, I'll get that cleaned up.
Maybe we shouldn't vote on it today, we should get it redone. That's another motion. What number are we revising?
This is 12.
This is a new,
Adding a new number
Yes.
12.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any discussion on number 12? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving item number 12 to be added to the conditions, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. That's not a vote. Okay, now we're going to have a motion on the
I think Mr. Sosin has a,
motion.
Yes, Mr. If I may.
yeah, a condition.
May I give consideration to a condition 13 to ask for an inspection on the 5th year of the anniversary of this conditional use? If I may continue, and my thought is that this conditional use has a history of violation almost once every 3 years. It's even gone in court. And I would like consideration that the conditional use on its half anniversary be viewed by the county.
Let's put that motion down in the words that we want on the document. So you want
I
to
make a
have
motion that there is an inspection of this site on the 5th year anniversary of this conditional use.
Is there a second to that?
I'll
motion?
second.
Second by Eldridge. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll vote on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Anything further on conditions? Hearing none, we proceed to the
I would move we accept the conditions, the 13 conditions, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I move acceptance of the conditional use for purposes of discussion, subject to the conditions.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Aldridge, seconded
Smolinski.
by Donald. All those in favor, I'm sorry, we're gonna have a roll call vote.
Discussion.
Discussion first. Discussion on the motion, starting with Mr. Cozen. Was it? Did he make the motion?
No, it was.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Eldridge.
Okay. I am not going to support this petition. I was here not 20 years ago like Linnea, but 10 years ago, and the petitioner was admonished at that time that this was an eyesore and that the thrust of the things was to clean up the eyesore, and I feel that while they put a little bit of screening in, if any of they just used that to make bigger and messier piles. By the testimony of the witness herself, the wood used is not exclusively clean wood as defined. I believe that the petitioner is going to do what she wants, is going to promise to do what we say, but is going to do what she wants. If this were a very large site, I might still vote in favor of it because it is out of the country. But because it's a small site, it is highly visible, and the history of abuse of the conditions from my perspective, I am going to vote no.
Mr. Cozen.
The previous remarks were very persuasive to me, Mr. Chairman. Outside the jurisdiction of McHenry County, there is a similar operation in the area of Old Sutton Road and State Route 72. It was one of the first locations that I ever saw a pile of mulch burst into flames. It also gave an odd introduction to those driving through on what they were likely to see in the area beyond and through that location on their travels. This too is not something that we want, despite the best efforts of the rules and regulations and staff, to be indicative of a qualifying business in McHenry County. And I too will not support this petition.
Mr. Alinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly understand Mr. Eldridge's concerns because he's got the history, same with Ms. Kustra with the history behind this. However, I would, again, I understand this petitioner has been given chances before, but again, my being new here, and I believe that we have very wisely constructed the conditional uses and would give the petitioner an opportunity to comply with the oversight from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I will support the petition.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Having heard the comments from 3 board members so far, I would be very much inclined to agree the most with the position of Mr. Smolinski. I don't think we're in the business of trying to close business. We're trying to get business to comply with our rules. I feel like perhaps there are certain older members that have maybe some thoughts and ideas on this that I don't have because I was not around back at that time, and that's perfectly understandable. However, when I drive around looking at these other landscape waste operations and I see piles 30 feet in the air, I don't see how we could impose too much of a double standard on an operation that's a bit smaller, other than to use common logical sense. And I think some of the conditions that we created actually attempt to do that. And I did not ask staff yet how enforceable it would even be if we had that condition for a 5-year inspection, if there's any enforcement mechanism for that. I have that as an open question. So at this point in time, I'm actually inclined to support the petition.
And I'm having a really, this isn't,
Barely. I think it's low.
I'm having a hard time with this one, because when I look at this site and where it's located, I think of all the places I would want to put a sawmill and a mulcher and all of that noisy, nasty stuff. This would be the place. It's away from everything. It's ideal as far as that goes. It's a very small site. I also have grave concerns that the petitioner is getting away with things by either, not understanding what is required or just hoping no one notices that she's not complying. And that's disturbing to me. I don't like that. It is a very small site. I think that if you can't keep your bins to the proper height, then you need more bins. You don't have a lot of room for more bins, but that is what you need, more bins. So I am up in the air. I'm going to hold off on my opinion right now.
Mrs. Gusa?
I agree with Mr. Eldridge. I was here for when this petition was first granted, and I was here on the renewal after all the violations of the first 10 years, and the petitioner let's just say that there have been a lot of problems with staff and the petitioner in trying to enforce standards, and that has continued in the last 10 years. I just don't think that that there's a level of trust with a conditional use permit, that you're given conditions that you need to follow in order to have a business on a piece of property. And I think a sawmill could work on this property because it's out in the rural areas, but it's like it's being handled like it's so much larger than the acreage that it is, and it's just so overbuilt, and it's just so unsightly, and then the rules have not been followed. And I agree with Mr. Eldridge that the petitioner will just do as they choose. They had a court case in 2014, and they pled guilty, and they were told that the height was too high in their bins, but they continued to operate as if there was no court case, and didn't change anything. And so that just shows to me a lack of respect for the rules of the county. And so I just don't think we should continue to give this petitioner more chances when they have proven that they just are not going to follow the rules to begin with. So I don't agree with renewing this. I'll be voting against it.
Okay, I've heard both sides of the argument, and to be honest with you, I was leaning towards granting this petition only because it doesn't really mean much in the scheme of things. It's a very small property in terms of consuming a farmland or anything like that. This is a very small business, $30,000 of income from mulching, which is really what we're concerned about here. I just don't think the county board would want to put this lady out of business just because it doesn't look good. We have a lot of things that don't look good in this county. unfortunately, Mrs. Ojeda is her own worst enemy because she seems to disrespect the process because she's right and everyone else is wrong. So she's kind of hard to swallow, but I'm going to vote in her favor. So we'll call the question. Eldridge,
No.
Hoekstra,
No.
Cozen,
No.
Schnabel,
Yes.
Smolinski,
Yes.
Stone, yes.
Got me.
Gardner.
Who did I miss?
Gardner.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Becky. Was a second. What's your vote, Becky?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna read this off, make sure it's right. Eldridge is no, Hoekstra is no, Cozen is no, Schnabel is yes, Smolinski is yes, Stone is yes. So the
4-3, no recommendation.
4-3. 1, 2, 3. What am I missing?
You forgot me again.
What have I done?
You forgot me again. On the read-through, you forgot me again.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the matter will go to the county board without a recommend, with a recommend,
No recommendation.
no
4-3
recommendation.
in favor.
4-3. That concludes the hearing.
Does that mean 4 was for me and 3 were against me?
4 was for you and 3 were against you. You need to have 5